Many people remember John D. Rockefeller as the ultimate American industrialist, the founder of Standard Oil, who amassed a fortune that made him the wealthiest person in modern history. At its height, his empire refined between 90 and 95% of all oil produced in the United States. His reach went far beyond the refineries themselves, extending into pipelines, delivery carts, and global trade networks that supplied fuel to homes and businesses across the globe. But Rockefeller's rise to absolute dominance was not simply the product of personal genius or hard work. Instead, his path to becoming America's first billionaire was forged during one of the most destructive financial panics in American history. Long before he controlled the energy sector, a young Rockefeller was working as a modest grain merchant in Cleveland during the American Civil War. The war created a massive surge in demand for food and supplies, driving grain prices skyward. While others engaged in reckless financial speculation, Rockefeller focused on steady profits, tight management, and relentless cost-cutting. By the time the Civil War drew to a close, he recognized that the grain business had reached its natural limits and turned his attention toward a rapidly emerging industry that was reshaping the nation: oil. In the 1860s, the oil market was pure chaos. Following major oil discoveries in Pennsylvania, hundreds of small refiners flooded the market in a gold rush frenzy. At the time, opening a refinery required very little money, making entry into the market remarkably easy. Almost anyone with a modest amount of capital could build a crude operation to refine petroleum into kerosene, which had become the primary fuel used to light American homes. However, this low barrier to entry led to severe overproduction. Refineries flooded the market with excess kerosene, driving prices down and triggering fierce price wars that repeatedly wiped out small operators, only for new competitors to take their place. Rockefeller entered this turbulent market with a completely different philosophy. He believed that lasting wealth did not come from taking wild gambles during a boom, but from building an efficient system that could outlast every economic crash. Rather than relying on third-party suppliers, he pursued vertical integration, bringing every stage of production under his own control. Standard Oil built its own barrel factories, acquired its own white oak timber, and processed its own iron hoops, cutting the cost of producing a barrel in half. While rival refiners dumped valuable byproducts into nearby rivers because processing them was too expensive, Rockefeller refused to waste anything. He used gasoline, which was then considered useless waste, to power his own refineries. Standard Oil manufactured paraffin for candles, processed lubricants for heavy machinery, sold industrial solvents, and distributed petroleum jelly. Virtually every drop of crude oil was monetized, creating profit margins that no competitor could match. In 1870, Rockefeller incorporated the Standard Oil Company alongside key business partners, including financier Henry Flagler. Realizing that true industry control required financial backing on an unprecedented scale, Rockefeller and Flagler met privately with Cleveland's top bankers in 1871. Securing their backing gave Standard Oil access to massive capital reserves. With cash in hand, Rockefeller went on the offensive. Instead of picking off small refiners, he targeted his largest, most powerful rivals first, offering to buy them out at fair market value. Those who refused soon found themselves locked in price wars against a competitor with virtually bottomless pockets. In less than a year, Standard Oil controlled nearly every refinery in Cleveland. This immense local dominance gave Rockefeller tremendous leverage over the railroads. Dependent on Standard Oil for massive freight volume, railroad companies granted him secret discounts that lowered his shipping costs far below those of his competitors. Rockefeller used these savings to cut prices even further, forcing remaining rivals into submission and bringing major refineries in Ohio, New York, and Pennsylvania under his umbrella. Then came the catalyst that turned a powerful company into an untouchable monopoly, the Panic of 1873. After years of reckless railroad speculation and easy credit, the financial system collapsed. Major investment firms went bankrupt, banks faced overwhelming runs, stock exchanges halted trading, and credit dried up completely. America entered a prolonged period of economic stagnation known as the Long Depression. Across the nation, businesses failed, unemployment soared, and fortunes vanished overnight. While most business owners faced financial ruin, Rockefeller was sitting on vast cash reserves backed by cooperative financial institutions. For Rockefeller, the panic was not a disaster, it was the ultimate buying opportunity. As distressed refiners struggled to survive, their asset values plummeted. Rockefeller went on an aggressive nationwide acquisition spree, buying up refineries, storage facilities, and transportation networks for pennies on the dollar. By 1875, Standard Oil began acquiring crude oil pipelines, consolidating them into a giant network called United Pipelines, and taking direct control of the supply infrastructure itself. In 1878, Rockefeller extracted an extraordinary concession from struggling railroads, a drawback agreement. Under this system, whenever a competitor shipped a barrel of oil, the railroad was required to pay a portion of that shipping fee directly to Standard Oil. In effect, Rockefeller's competitors were forced to fund the very company that was driving them out of business. By 1879, Standard Oil refined 90% of all American oil. To centralize control over this sprawling network without violating state corporate laws, Rockefeller created the Standard Oil Trust in 1882. This revolutionary legal structure placed dozens of separate companies under the unified command of a small board of trustees, creating a corporate giant that operated far beyond the reach of public scrutiny or state regulations. Although the United States Supreme Court eventually ordered the dissolution of Standard Oil in 1911 under antitrust laws, the breakup split the trust into 33 separate entities that grew into modern energy titans like ExxonMobil and Chevron. Ultimately, the story of Rockefeller's empire demonstrates a fundamental pattern in economic history. Unprecedented fortunes are rarely built during times of peaceful stability. They are built during times of crisis and uncertainty, when panics force the vulnerable to sell, allowing those with capital to consolidate power and shape the future of the market.